people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. A bit of news that doesn't come as a surprise to me. Estrada and Golden Boy Promotions sever relationship.
I think people are going to be surprised where she pops up.
As I am privy to information that most others do not have access to, I've known for some time now that
She's gone.
Estrada's days at Golden Boy Promotions are numbered, or they were.
Sinicia, who was doing some commentator work this past weekend for Ryan Garcia's fight.
Perhaps that might have led a lot of people to think that Estrada and Golden Boy Promotions have settled their differences and they're going to continue in their partnership moving forward. I've known for some time now that's not the case. Estrada and Golden Boy Promotions have severed their relationship. Golden Boy Chief Operating Officer Robert Gaspari told BoxingScene.com. The divorce comes after the minimum weight and light flyweight world champion Estrada, 22-0 with 9 KOs, kept pressing Golden Boy, calling for a renegotiated contract over the last few months.
Sinicia wanted a pay increase.
BoxingScene.com senior writer Jake Donovan reported last month there was an offer for Estrada to face Annabelle Ortiz in a rematch on the Virgil Ortiz versus Michael McKinson card on August 6th in Fort Worth, Texas. But Estrada and Golden Boy ultimately couldn't come to terms on a new deal.
That's the same Annabelle Ortiz she beat for the WBA minimum weight title.
Estrada beat Annabelle Ortiz in dominant fashion, so why the people over there at Golden Boy decided to conjure up Annabelle again for a second fight, a rematch that no one was asking for?
Well, I could tell you, but it's a long story.
Sinicia's a great fighter. She's been with Golden Boy for a long time. We gave her a platform, we built her up. Golden Boy provided her with the blueprint like we always do, say Gaspari. What happens is, at the end of the day, I don't know if it's the numbers or whatever, we can do so much. As a promoter, a lot of times they look at us as the, why can't we have more whatever. There's a great deal of money involved to put these shows on. I can't comment on the details of it. I know some stuff is still fluid. We wish Sinicia the best. She's a wonderful person. I'm sure she will do very well wherever she goes.
And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised where she ends up going, where she pops up.
Superbad Estrada, a 30-year-old Los Angeles born and bred boxer, last fought in December and scored a 4th-round knockout against Maria Machado Santizo.
The plan was supposed to be for Sinicia Estrada to unify minimum weight titles with Castavalle, that division's reigning IBF champion.
A lot of time has passed, and since then, Castavalle has been brought into the fray. She's signed a multi-fight deal with Golden Boy Promotions and has already made her Golden Boy Promotions debut. Post-fight, Costa stated that they're already in talks to unify titles with the Nguyen, the minimum weight division's WBO champion of Vietnam.
It wasn't that long ago. We talked about it here on the channel.
And while one might feel so inclined to believe that Golden Boy Promotions signed Castavalle with the intention of getting her in the ring with Sinicia Estrada, I think it's a little different than that. I think that they brought Castavalle into the fray knowing that Sinicia Estrada would be leaving, that in many ways what they aspire to do is replace Sinicia with Costa. Not just replace Sinicia with Costa, make things difficult for Sinicia moving forward.
You think the people at Golden Boy Promotions don't hold grudges? Look at how Oscar talks about Eddie.
Look at how he talks about Eddie now that Canelo Alvarez is doing all his business with Eddie Hearn. And bear in mind that Eddie Hearn isn't the reason that Canelo Alvarez left Golden Boy, but that doesn't stop Oscar from taking shots at Eddie. Believe me when I tell you, the people at Golden Boy Promotions, they hold grudges. They're spiteful.
And they might try to make things difficult for Sinicia moving forward now that she's not with them.
Difficult in terms of unification matches and what champions are available for Sinicia moving forward. The champions in the minimum weight division, lest we forget. They signed Yo Costa Valle. They seem to be negotiating a unification match between Yo Costa and the Nuñan. This is the same division where Senicia holds the WBA title, and they may block any unification attempts Senicia makes as a minimum weight.
If they end up making that Yo Costa Valle versus the Nuñan fight, I think Yo Costa's going to end up winning the fight.
She is a more experienced fighter and a more experienced champion than the Nuñan, and what that essentially means is that Golden Boy Promotions will have control of 2 alphabet titles in the minimum weight division. 2 titles that may prove difficult for Senicia to get to, leaving her only the option of facing Germany's own Tina Ruprecht.
But we know what Senicia wants. She wants to become an undisputed champion.
That could prove difficult if 2 of the alphabet titles are on the Golden Boy Promotions side of things. Golden Boy, who she just severed ties to.
So what the hell's she gonna do? What's the solution?
Now, I don't think Golden Boy Promotions tried hard enough to keep Senicia Estrada on their side of things. Senicia wanted a little bit more money for what it's worth. I actually think she deserves it, but more importantly,
She can get it.
the word deserves, oftentimes in the sport of boxing, is a bit of a 4-letter word.
The real question is, if you want something that Golden Boy Promotions isn't giving you, can you go out there and get it somewhere else?
Therein lies the business savvy of Team Estrada. Yes, she can, and she will.
In many ways, she already has, though I'm going to keep a lid on it until news breaks and it's official.
And in that way, being privy to that particular bit of information, my overview is that Golden Boy Promotions didn't realize what they lost, and Senicia is quite capable of getting what she wanted from Golden Boy from someone else. So in that way, they didn't try hard enough to keep her, but they should have.
So it being that 2 alphabet titles may end up on the Golden Boy side of things.
That Golden Boy Promotions may so choose, despite Senicia Estrada's efforts to unify this division moving forward, perhaps she should move back upstairs to light flyweight and see about getting the winner of Bermudez versus Altuve, set to go down next week on Saturday. Perhaps she should move up in weight and see about getting the winner of that fight in the ring later on this year. 2 alphabet titles in one fell swoop.
Golden Boy doesn't have any fighters up there.
2 of the alphabet titles are already unified, thus unifying that division won't take quite as long as unifying the minimum weight division would have taken.
Given where Senicia Estrada is set to be going, they've got the means and the resources to make that happen.
I think that's the best course of action at this point. In other news, Leonard Ellerbe this past weekend took to social media and stated, "Love it or hate it, all roads at 135 to make the biggest fight possible come through the boss of the division," and he goes by the name of Tank Davis.
How could all roads at 135 pounds lead to Tank Davis when he has no major alphabet titles there?
So he is unable to funnel fighters to the Showtime platform, and when last I checked, Floyd Mayweather Jr. made it clear that they're only going to put Gervonta Davis in in-house fights. So any other fighters that are in anyone else's house, they ain't got nothing to do with Gervonta Davis's bottom line. Those things in mind, and that being said, how could all roads lead to Gervonta Davis when for the longest time he hasn't been taking on all comers? He's not going to start now.
A Twitter user that goes by the name The Freelance Assassin.
The Freelance Assassin responded to Leonard Ellerbe's tweet by saying, "Tank, Ellerbe, and Garcia de la Hoya are delusional. The division has an undisputed champion who may end up fighting Loma. That is the fight to make," to which Leonard Ellerbe replied, "Nobody's delusional. All you clowns are mad. Tank Davis is the only one generating the revenue, and it's all about that bottom line. I'm just giving you the facts."
This isn't as big a problem as people make it out to be.
It is not Leonard Ellerbe's intention to crown Gervonta Davis as this division's best fighter, per se. That's why they match him the way that they match him. It's their goal to make him the division's biggest draw, not necessarily the division's biggest fighter, best fighter, and that's why he's not in possession of any major alphabet titles and isn't pursuing any. So in that way, he can't actually stop the good fighters from fighting the other good fighters in the lightweight division. He can't actually stop the good fights from happening.
Neither Leonard Ellerbe or Gervonta Davis have it within their power to block any major fights at lightweight.
It's not like what we've been seeing at welterweight the last 3 or 4 years between Terrence Crawford, Top Rank, the PBC, and Errol Spence Jr. It's not like Gervonta Davis can freeze anybody out and prevent big fights from happening because he doesn't have the alphabet titles in order to do so. The PBC don't have the stronghold at lightweight that they might have at welterweight and super welterweight. So this really isn't as big a problem as people make it out to be.
And Leonard Ellerbe decided to post this past weekend for a reason. It's because a big-name fighter,
one of the most recognizable names anywhere at or around these weights, he was in action this past weekend against Javier Fortuna. We're talking about Ryan Garcia. This is strategic, after all. Whenever any ripples, any waves are made at or around these weights where Gervonta Davis campaigns, you can bet your bottom dollar that Leonard Ellerbe's going to jump on his social media and start talking about how Tank is the best thing smoking, the best thing since sliced bread.
promotion by way of name association. He knows what he's doing, and so does Ryan.
The peddlers of empty promises between 130 and 140 pounds. In truth, what they're both doing, both Ryan Garcia and Team Davis, what they're both doing is seeking refuge in each other. They have no intention of facing the Devin Haney's of the world, per se.
The Vasyl Lomachenkos or the Shakur Stevensons of the world when he moves up.
They're gonna keep doing what they've been doing, fighting people nobody asks them to fight whilst name-dropping each other. That's the strategy. That's the plan for both Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia.
Let me tell you something. That could go on for a long time. A very long time.
As far as blocking fights and freezing fighters out, neither Ryan Garcia or Gervonta Davis have the power to do that. They can't stop the good fighters from fighting the other good fighters at 135 pounds or 140 because neither Golden Boy Promotions or Mayweather Promotions have the run of the place. They ain't got the run of the place at 135 or 140 pounds.
All roads don't lead to Tank because Tank don't take on all comers. So what the hell is Leonard talking about?
And Gervonta Tank Davis, he's older than Ryan. He's older than Devin. He's older than Shakur. He can't age those fighters out.
If what Leonard's thinking is they're going to wait out those fighters' existing contracts and try to funnel that talent over to Showtime.
On the assumption that they're trying to funnel everybody else's fighters to their platform to fight under their banner, well,
Devin Haney's next couple of fights are going to be on Top Rank, and by the time that deal is up, how old is Gervonta Davis going to be?
apply that same formula to Shakur Stevenson. I'm not even saying that they're waiting to bring these fighters over to Showtime so much as if they were, well, that's going to backfire because Gervonta's older than those fighters are.
He's not getting any younger.
Not getting better either. You hear it all the time in this sport. Iron sharpens iron. And fighting prospects or being matched like one, the same way that Gervonta Davis is being matched like one, taking on the Rolly Romeros and Isaac Cruzes of the world. That's not going to further develop your abilities as a fighter, further develop your skill set. And it just so happens it's not Leonard's intention to develop Gervonta as a fighter. It's his intention to develop him as an attraction, and he feels he's safe inside his bubble.
So long as he can sell out local joints like the Barclays Center and move a little over 200,000 pay-per-view buys.
He's happy. I've told you guys for the last 2, 3, 4 years, Gervonta Davis, Leonard Ellerbe, they're happy with the nominal success they're having. Though as far as being that crossover star, like a Manny Pacquiao, like a Floyd Mayweather, more recently, like a Canelo Alvarez, you can't achieve that kind of success isolating yourself from your contemporaries.
You don't get to the point where you can move 500, 600, 700,000, a million pay-per-view buys fighting guys like Rolly.
Nothing's about to change, you understand. Gervonta Davis will still continue to fight in-house fighters and in-house fights specifically, even if those aren't the fights that people want to see him in.
All roads don't lead to Gervonta Davis. In fact, in many ways, no roads lead to Gervonta Davis.
How could they? He's on an island. He's not in possession of any alphabet titles that might funnel other promotions' fighters to his side of things.
He himself isn't trying to fight for all of those alphabet titles, the ones that Devin Haney's currently in possession of.
Where Leonard Ellerbe is saying that all roads lead to Gervonta, Floyd Mayweather, he's saying something different. He's telling guys like Devin Haney, he's telling guys like Shakur Stevenson to leave Tank Davis alone. So how could all roads lead to Gervonta when what Floyd wants is for other guys to leave his fighter alone?
It doesn't make any sense.
Here's what does. No roads lead to Gervonta Davis because he's cut off from everyone else, the same way he has been for the last 3 or 4 years.
It's not about to change. This is more smoke and mirrors from Leonard Ellerbe.
And just in keeping with the theme of news at or around these wakes, Mike Coppinger stated, a fight between Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis is one of the biggest in all of boxing, but there are a myriad of obstacles to a deal, besides the politics that plague the sport, to which Rick Mirrigan replied, Joseph Diaz has 0 obstacles. I'll make sure the deal is done in 1 hour or less.
Rick Merrigan handles the career of Jojo Diaz.
Jojo, who ended up fighting Devin Haney after Ryan Garcia initially pulled out of their fight last year. Rick Merrigan still has aspirations that such a fight can get over the line this year. He says, I'll be calling Make a War and Michelada time bright and early tomorrow being today as this tweet was posted over the weekend, to talk their ears off on why Joseph Diaz versus Ryan Garcia for the fall just makes so much sense. Please forgive me, guys, if I start calling at 5 a.m.
Nobody really believes that Ryan's going to end up fighting Gervonta later on this year.
Just like most people didn't believe that Gervonta Davis would end up leaving Mayweather Promotions after the Romero fight. Most people didn't believe that, and most people, they don't believe this. In all likelihood, we end up seeing Ryan Garcia versus someone else, anyone else, perhaps Joseph Diaz. It's an easy in-house fight to make. It's actually a fight that they made before. They could end up making it again.
You know, Jojo Diaz, he's a southpaw.
Shorter, stumpier fighter with a lower center of gravity, the same way that Gervonta Davis is a short, stumpy fighter with a lower center of gravity. Ryan Garcia, he seems to be feasting on southpaws, developing into somewhat of a southpaw specialist. Luke Campbell, an Olympic gold medalist that is also a southpaw. More recently, Javier Fortuna, an experienced veteran, a guy who's been around the block with a lot of fighters, also a southpaw. And Joseph Diaz.
So what if Ryan Garcia is fighting all these southpaws on a regular basis to prepare him for Gervonta Davis?
Is that really outside the realm of possibility? Just because the fight doesn't happen this year doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It really is one of the bigger commercially viable fights you can make in the sport right now, in spite of neither fighter holding a major alphabet title, in spite of neither fighter.
Ryan might be indeed readying himself for a Gervonta Davis fight, even if it isn't about to happen.
Is it really a coincidence that he faced southpaw and Luke Campbell before? You might tell yourself, well, that was a WBC final eliminator that was mandated, but what about Javier Fortuna? He willfully chose to fight Javier Fortuna, and he may end up fighting Jojo Diaz, perhaps at 140 pounds, since Ryan says he's all but done at 135, and he's not going back down. In any event, it's a fight that's easy to make, as they have made it before.
And if the fight does get made, you're going to see people belly aching about it online, but it's still going to do good business.
Because it involves two fighters of Mexican descent. All you got to do is do this thing somewhere on the West Coast, and people are going to show up. They're going to show out.
If they were able to pick up where they left off with Javier Fortuna, they can pick up where they left off with Joseph Diaz.
Yeah, Ryan Garcia might be making a lot of empty promises here and now about when we can expect that Gervonta Davis fight to happen, but anybody with common sense knows things in the sport of boxing, they don't work like that. You can't actually expect him to take on Gervonta later on this year. In all likelihood,
Hey, listen, Jojo's a southpaw the same way Gervonta's a southpaw, but he's not a big puncher.
naturally smaller guy that used to campaign as low as featherweight. So you get the experience minus the risks. You get to swap punches with a southpaw, same way Gervonta's a southpaw, but you're not under much threat of being knocked out.
Rick Merrigan, Jojo's handler, wants to make the fight, so it could definitely happen.
And if I had to guess, I'd sooner expect Ryan to end up fighting Jojo later on this year than Gervonta Davis.
Maybe one day those two boys will fight, but it ain't about to happen now.
You can expect both of these teams to ride that scooter for at least the next year and a half.
Right now what I think Ryan's doing is getting ready.